How do you use media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages?
We have made many advancements in our use of technology, which has subsequently helped our group communicate effectively. We identified that communication was an area in which we fell short on with our previous project the previous year, and in order to overcome this problem effectively, we used a social network, Facebook, as a means of communication. We created a group on Facebook and tailored it to the needs of the group by exploiting its multimedia functions and capabilities. We used the group as a virtual workroom, so if any of us was struck by a problem with our concept, they would highlight this problem on the wall of our Facebook group. Additionally, if any of us were unavailable to film on days we had planned to use, they could again write on the wall of the group and to let the rest of the group know of the situation. The group was also used as a means of expressing ideas which we thought would be beneficial to the project, as well as any suggestions, discussions, or general comments about our project as a whole. We felt that this would be an efficient use of our time and effort because it offers a practical and free form of communication for our group to use in order to keep everyone up to date with the project's progress.
We have also used technological means to help with the recording of our projects, which were new to us. Whilst we have used a similar camera to our previous project, we wanted to be able to make this year's film of a better standard and easier on the eye. Due to us attempting to incorporate the ideas influenced by Cecil Beaton and the concept of Hollywood photography, we took advantage of the fact that our school had invested in some new lighting equipment. We felt that by using these, we would be able to create a different and more effective type of contrast, which we felt would be beneficial to our project as a whole. Whilst using the lights, we also use reflectors in order to manufacture different effects and angles in order to use the lights in the most creative way possible. However, we found that using the lighting equipment for extended periods of time created issues with safety, as it was often the case after working with them for an extended period of time, that they would become very hot to the point it would burn you handling it. From these encounters, we modified the usage of the light machines to stop them from overheating and also from expending electricity we did not need to use.
We used the lighting equipment in order to undergo lighting tests to see whether we would be able to effectively and realistically recreate the lighting style that was used in the films we analysed. After performing these tests, we worked out how we could reconstruct a similar lighting effect and where we could possibly use it on set if practical or possible. We used a digital camera to record the various tests we performed using light, so we were able to analyse them on our website, as well as use them for future reference should we need guidance in recreating the effects. This year, instead of presenting our research and planning on our PowerPoint, we thought we would utilise our technological abilities by creating a free website using Weebly.com. Weebly allowed us to put our research and planning into a format accessible from anywhere with an internet connection, which was useful as we were able to update our work at school or home, and it was published with immediate effect, meaning that there was no danger of losing our work if a fault ever occurred. As well as this, it also meant that we were able to share our project with a wider audience, as anybody could access this if they wished to.
By sharing our project with a wider audience, it allowed for a greater amount of feedback from people who viewed our website. This allowed us to constantly have the opportunity to change our website to meet the needs of our target audience, as well as take on suggestions and listen to constructive criticism. Parts of our research and planning, particularly the focus group and presentation and feedback, was recorded and uploaded to YouTube. From this, we were able to embed links and as a result present our findings in a more advanced and efficient format, as opposed to last year where we simply wrote down what feedback we received. In terms of digital programs used, last year a lot of our film was edited on iMovie. However, this time we decided to use the availability of Final Cut Express to our advantage. We experienced new features and effects such as the use of desaturation, which features heavily in our project. We found that by using a more advanced program, we were able to create a more professional final product.
A program which was new to us was Photoshop, which we used mainly to help with the creation of our ancillary text. None of us were particularly comfortable using it, so we used our initiative to educate ourselves through the use of online video tutorials. This helped us to get to grips with the processes required to make our work seem professional and to the best possible standard, and so it benefited us.
What have you learned from your audience feedback?
Having discussed our ideas and developed our plans with the help of our focus group, we found that audience feedback can play a big part in your final production, particularly with outside and unbiased opinions. The audience we were trying to relate to were those in Generation Y. Generation Y consists of those born in and around the early 1990s, generally those who are in their late teens to early 20s. We base this on the reasoning that this audience is more inclined to attend festivals and gigs. Although they are obviously welcome to people of most ages, this seems to be the predominant age range attending these events. Target audience tend to look up to their favourite band members as idols and are influenced by their image, so often bands will alter their image so their fans can copy them. which will promote further interest in the band itself. As fans tend to see bands in this respect, indie bands, particularly Metronomy, align themselves with the rise of the smartphone. The current generation is so reliant on technology that to promote a band alongside a device everybody wishes to buy will see their popularity rise. For our focus group to help us with our planning, we chose an audience that fitted the genre of music we chose, indie and electronic, in order to give us a realistic and honest impression and suggestions that can relate to the genre. Although they weren't necessarily familiar with the band and the song itself, as they were aware of the non-conformity image often associated with indie bands, they were able to give an indie perspective and relate our ideas to their particular ideologies. They were also able to relate it to realistic indie and electronic conventions to give us an approach which was completely realistic and relevant to our band's image. The fact that we chose people for our focus group which fitted the indie culture meant their feedback and advice was genuine and we were able to take on board their advice. For example, for our final product, we were initially going to do the band scene with the real instruments that Metronomy used, such as bass guitar, and electric keyboard. Our focus group pointed out that it would be more in keeping with the indie image if we were to use more obscure instruments, such as a piano and a double bass. We eventually ended up doing this, and our final product looked more professional as a result. From our focus group, we learned that it's important and extremely useful to get opinions from objective viewers. Not only do they give us ideas we may not have thought of, as well as keeping our product realistic, they are also able to point out whether we may be getting carried away. Often when planning a project of such magnitude, groups can let their imagination run away with them, and subsequently their ideas may be subconsciously becoming overcomplicated and unrealistic. The focus group helped us to highlight the areas we may have been thinking too much about and simplify them to keep in with our sophisticated themes. In what ways does your product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products?
Our music video is specifically made to represent the 1930s gangster genre and era. We use movies and advertisements from the area such as Scarface, Angels with Dirty Faces, and Dead End. Although generally following these for our inspiration, we use the film This Is England as an example of how we intended to portray our modern section of the video. By using this as a contrasting example, we intended to challenge modern evolution of the gangster, and throughout the video we tried to do so. We intended to challenge our modern meaning of gangster and compare it to the 1930s meaning as it was intended. We also looked at the way the band had previously been portrayed, so that we didn't portray them in a way that would not have been seen before. We saw that from previous music videos they were open to being portrayed in a variety of ways. From this we concluded that our representation of them was not unrealistic, but actually fit their band image that they had built up over a number of years. Through our variety of shots, modern and 1930s era, we intended to stick to the convention of each era. During post-production we added black and white filter and other filters to our 1930s shots to give it a look that we were inspired by. By using correct costume and without filters, we tried to portray the modern era correctly too. We tried to stick to Goodwin's key conventions, one of these being that there should be a link between the lyrics and the visuals. We tried to do this in a metaphorical way. We wanted to use the idea of the Bay as the gangster era or time that is less hostile than today, and that the place that we want to be taken back to because of its pure meaning of gangster and not being in a world with a new gangster that is commonly disliked. We also tried to stick to the idea that authenticity is important. This is also one of Goodwin's key conventions, this being that there must be lots of shots of the artist or band as a demand of the record company to help them develop their image. We use shots of the band performing throughout to emphasise this, with them also playing their instruments to show how they are actually musicians. This is also a key feature of indie genre. They are known for being independent and trying to fight back against the major and mainstream labels. Their perception of these labels that are just about making money and not about the music. Therefore they are trying to fight back with a focus on the music and not being corrupted by money-making machines. So by having a focus on the band playing their instruments gives this feeling of authenticity and satisfies the indie audience. How effective is the combination of your main product and ancillary text?
There are many connections between our final video product and our associated print work. Our video focused on the contrast between 1930s and the modern-day crime era. It combined the idea of MGM and Cecil Beaton's Hollywood photography with Warner Brothers' idea of pre-code realism, as well as having elements of social realism often found in productions by various directors such as Shane Meadows. We tried to incorporate elements of both of these themes into our video and ancillary text in order to create a clear and convincing contrast. Parts of our ancillary text was the advert of our single, which would hypothetically be put into a magazine relevant to the genre. Our advert featured the members of our group, who also pose as the band in our video, standing together and looking past the cameras. The togetherness and simplicity presented in this image promote the indie ideologies of non-conformity and being genuine. The outfits we wore during the photo were the same as the band we were wearing in our video, and they are basic yet sophisticated. The simple idea of wearing plain trousers, a shirt, and for one member a tie shows the indie nature of not seeking attention.
The lighting we used is similar to that shown in our lighting test and reflects the ideas that we took from Cecil Beaton, whose work influenced our decisions. By lighting half the face and having a shadowed background, we can present the enigmatic and dynamic themes that indie genre holds. This enigmatic nature and somewhat mysterious presence is further exemplified by the use of a black and white filter. These indie messages relate back to our main video, where we aim to replicate both Cecil Beaton's ideas as well as portray our knowledge of indie culture. The other part of our ancillary portfolio was the cover for the Digipack. The cover is similar to the advert in the sense that it portrays the use of Cecil Beaton's glamour photography and again has the band members in their indie clothing, but there are noticeable differences. The band members are separated into different panels on the cover, and each of us has tape over our mouth. As well as this, each is fronted by a placard with our dates of birth in the year 1930, but represented in the way that a mugshot would be when a criminal is detained by the police. We did this to reflect the social realistic side of our video, which was presented in the video by the modern day youths robbing an innocent bystander. As there are only 3 members in our group in the band we portrayed, the 4th palette on the front of the album cover was a microphone dangling and shot in an abstract and Cecil Beaton style. We did this to exemplify the isolated nature that this side of the music industry has in relation to the mainstream culture. Below this is the title of our song, as well as the band's name. We used the same font on this, which we did for our advert, and we used a similar font to that which would be seen on movie posters for 1930s gangster thrillers. We did this to replicate this idea, so we could relate back to the idea of Warner Brothers' pre-code realism period. Both our ancillary partner texts represent our band and our project as a whole in similar areas as we had researched, be it the 1930s gangster period, the glamour photography, or the social realism. Our print work shares themes and relates back to the research portrayed in our genre research and planning, as well as replicating ideas portrayed in our final video.